man has made an effort to accurately chronicle the events that came before him throughout history. These stories were first spoken orally, were passed down through the generations, and were later documented in literary forms. For ages, people have treasured these tales as the only link to a world that would otherwise be lost to time. As is frequently the case, there were moments when it became inconvenient for some realities to be publicly acknowledged, much less recorded indestructibly. Sometimes, specific incidents and sometimes individuals were just described in writing. Here is a list of 10 people who were erased from the history. Number 10, Greta Severin. The Romans actually meant the damning of a memory when they coined the phrase damnatio memoriae. It was the ultimate insult to remove a lifetime's worth of accomplishments from the books, as if they had never happened in a time when legacy was valued more than life itself. Roman punishments were thought to be reserved for the worst offenders, including political criminals, religious heretics, and disgraced members of wealthy families. Geta Severin and his family were in such a situation. Geta attempted to split his brother Caracalla's realm, his fiercest opponent, in half. After being thwarted by their mother, Caracalla eventually killed Geta and had his wife Plautilla put to death. Number 9, Nikolai Yezhov. It was risky business to be Stalin's opponent. It was a sharp irony for the relentless and intimidating Nikolai Yezhov that, in his capacity as minister of Stalin's most brutal enforcement squad, he found himself at the receiving end of the communist leader's wrath. Along with his family, Nikolai was not only deposed, killed, and humiliated, but he was also meticulously removed from pictures in which he had previously been seen alongside his commander. Number 8, the erased of Slovenia. Being excluded from the annals of history is not a singular occurrence. Immigrants mostly settled in Slovenia until it proclaimed its independence from Yugoslavia in 1991. Citizenship was granted without the need for ethnic Slovenes to submit a long application process. The Slovenian government chose to address its immigration issues in 1992, after encountering a significant logistical challenge. While many choose to relocate abroad, several persist, posing as asylum seekers or refugees despite having been treated as equal citizens just a few days earlier. Number 7, Jang Song-thaek. The media has portrayed very few leaders in recent history as greater lunatics than Kim Jong-un and his ancestors. The current regime has been hidden and dictatorial, yet despite their boastful and frequently aggressive pronouncements, some very disturbing measures have come out. One such policy is the cold-blooded murder and defamation of everyone who disagrees with the state's official policy, even family members. He had his uncle detained when the latter offended the current dictator, Kim Jong-un. Then, he ordered his murder after declaring him a traitor. But it didn't end there. Clearly furious, Kim ordered the man to be removed one by one from any national media that the government could control. Officially, the man who had been enjoying an insider position for years had never existed in North Korea. Number 6, Queen Hatshepsut. It's possible that the Egyptians were the first to employ historical revisionism, though this is uncertain. They undoubtedly made it known to the public as a widespread and zealously pursued activity. Every succeeding pharaoh aimed to surpass his forerunner, frequently by erasing all traces of the former ruler. Because of this process, names of conquering monarchs were literally chiseled out of their historical context, making it extremely impossible to identify the chronological order of events in Egyptian chronology. In such cases, even if a monarch's heir succeeded him, the entire royal line, all attendant priests, and even domestic animals were executed. As a result, the customs that the people had previously adhered to were terminated. Following the passing of her husband, Thutmose, Queen Hatshepsut ruled a tranquil and prosperous Egypt for 20 years. As the intended heir, Thutmose III was too young to ascend to the throne. Hatshepsut assumed regency over him and continued to use the title of pharaoh until her death. Whether out of political expediency or personal resentment, Thutmose had his aunt's statues blocked up or destroyed, her name wiped from the annals of history, and her inscriptions deleted. In Egypt, one of the obelisks she built is still in place. Number 5, Maximian. It was an example of the traditional fight for supremacy, between powerful forces vying to lead the most powerful country on earth. While fighting about who should have been named Augustus, Constantine and the dissident Maximin shared the title of Caesar at the time. Number 4. Elizabeth O'Farrell. Elizabeth O'Farrell's tale is the story of hundreds of Irish women during the 1916 Revolution. O'Farrell was a staunch Republican and nurse who enthusiastically backed the movement, even sending communications across international borders in spite of the dangers involved. She was a vocal supporter at a period when women in Ireland were thought of as nothing more than homemakers. Number 3. Akhenaten. There have been references to Akhenaten as the source of influence for Moses' Christian persona. His impact on the Egyptian populace was unparalleled, however fleeting in the end. Akhenaten is credited with eliminating the popular pantheon of gods that the Egyptians had previously worshipped and establishing monotheism in the populace. His radical and revolutionary reforms in politics and religion did not win him many fans. Not long after ascending to the throne, Akhenaten commanded that any references to the previous god, who was rumored to have fathered the previous pharaoh, be eliminated from his father's burial chambers. He constructed a new capital and controlled the country alongside his wife, Nefertiti. Despite all of his efforts, Tutankhamun, the most well-known pharaoh of them all, his son, overturned his decrees. The scribes recorded all of the original gods' names in Akhenaten's father's tomb shortly after the latter's death. Number 2. Al-Thani Khan. The name Genghis Khan evokes memories of unmatched terror and warfare throughout history. In contrast, most modern ears find the name Al-Thani Khan to be incomprehensible. In actuality, Genghis had 3 daughters throughout his reign who were not only feared and revered, but also commended by their father and given prominent military posts. And the only reason their identities were ever forgotten by history was because of an unidentified censor. Number 1. Jack Parsons. During his era, Jack Parsons was among the most significant individuals. He was a scientist, socialite, and inventor who started one of the most significant initiatives in American history. Jack was one of the original members of the JBL, which was a vital source of technology for the armed forces in World War II, and later gave a plethora of information to a young NASA. He was also present when Scientology was first being formed. In the 1940s, Jack was creating waves as a buddy of L. Ron Hubbard, who occasionally borrowed Parsons' wife and vice versa. Jack was banished from society and lost to history, methodically deleted from textbooks and almost all references that aren't footnotes. That's all for now. For more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.